There was a woman who kept the peace. She kept it at the dinner table when her husband spoke to her like she was invisible. She kept it when his mother corrected her cooking, her cleaning, her parenting, in front of the children. She kept it when her opinions were dismissed before she even finished the sentence. She kept the peace so well that everyone in that house forgot she had a voice at all. They called her quiet. They called her calm. What they actually meant was convenient. Because a quiet woman doesn't argue. A quiet woman doesn't complicate holidays. A quiet woman absorbs the comment, swallows the hurt, and still has dinner on the table by 6. A quiet woman makes everyone else's life easier, at the cost of her own peace. And for years, that was the arrangement nobody ever said out loud, but everybody understood perfectly. Let me tell you how it starts. It never starts with shouting. It never starts with cruelty you could point to and say, "There, that was the moment." It starts small. It starts with a joke at her expense that everyone laughs at, including her, because laughing feels safer than objecting. It starts with her husband taking his mother's side in front of her, again and again, until she stops expecting him to take her side at all. It starts with small corrections. The way she folds the towels. The way she seasons the soup. The way she raises her voice, ever so slightly, is met with, "Why are you being so sensitive?" And she absorbed it. Because she loved her husband. Because she wanted peace in her home. Because she believed, the way so many of us are taught to believe, that a good wife bends so the household doesn't break. But here is what nobody tells you. Silence has a cost. Every time she said nothing, she paid with a piece of herself. Every time she let it slide, she was teaching them exactly how far they could go. And they went far, because people will always rise to the height of what you tolerate. Picture her mother-in-law walking into her home, uninvited in every sense but the literal one, rearranging her kitchen, questioning her parenting, speaking about her as though she wasn't standing right there. And picture her husband, watching this happen, saying nothing, because keeping his mother comfortable had always mattered more than protecting his wife's dignity. Nobody ever sat him down and told him that would cost him something. Nobody ever told his mother there was a boundary. And so the boundary simply didn't exist. Not because this woman had no worth. Not because she deserved to be diminished. But because nobody in that house had ever been made to feel the weight of what they were doing. This is the part that matters most for you listening right now. It is not that she was weak. It is that she was quietly disappearing, one accommodation at a time, one swallowed word at a time, one Christmas dinner at a time, where she smiled through comments that cut her to the bone, because that was what was expected of her. Do you know what it costs a woman to keep smiling in a room where she is being diminished? It is not nothing. It is a slow erosion of self-respect, one polite silence at a time. And most women who go through this do not even realize it is happening until they wake up one day and do not recognize the person in the mirror. Not because she has aged, but because she has shrunk. Piece by piece. Room by room. Comment by comment. If this sounds familiar to you, I want you to hear something clearly. What you are feeling has a name, and it is not weakness. It is depletion. It is what happens to a person who has spent years giving away pieces of herself to keep others comfortable, while nobody asked whether she was comfortable at all. But here is the truth about quiet women that the world forgets. Quiet is not the same as weak. Quiet is often a woman gathering herself. Quiet is a woman watching, learning, and waiting, even when she does not yet know what she is waiting for. Quiet is not surrender. Sometimes quiet is simply the sound of a woman building something inside herself that nobody else can see yet. And there is always a moment. It does not arrive with fireworks. It rarely arrives the way we imagine it will, with a dramatic confrontation and a mic drop line. Sometimes it arrives on an ordinary Tuesday. Sometimes it is one comment too many, one dismissal too familiar, one moment where something inside her simply says, "Not anymore." For her, it was a single afternoon. Her mother-in-law made a comment about how she was raising her own daughter, in front of the child, in front of her husband, in front of everyone. And her husband, as he always did, said nothing. And something in her went very still. Not angry, not yet. Still. The stillness of a woman who has finally run out of road to keep walking down the same path. She did not raise her voice that day. She simply looked at her mother-in-law and said, "That will not happen again." 5 words. No shouting. No tears. Just a boundary, spoken plainly, for the first time in years. And then she turned to her husband, and she said something that had been sitting in her chest for a decade. She said, "I have been quiet because I love this family enough to protect it. But I will not stay quiet while it costs me myself." That is the moment everything changed. Not because she became someone new, but because she stopped hiding who she had always been. I want you to understand something about that moment, because it is the part most people misunderstand about standing up for yourself. She did not stand because she stopped loving her husband. She did not stand because she wanted to destroy her family. She stood because she finally understood a truth every woman eventually has to learn. You cannot protect a household by disappearing from it. Peace that requires your erasure was never peace. It was just quiet suffering with better manners. Real peace does not ask you to vanish. Real love does not require your silence as its price of admission. And any relationship, any family, any marriage that only functions when you make yourself smaller, was never built on solid ground to begin with. So let's talk about what happened after she stood, because this is the part nobody shows you in the movies. It was not instantly triumphant. Her husband was defensive at first. Her mother-in-law was offended. There were uncomfortable weeks where the old rhythms of the house did not know how to function now that she had stopped absorbing everything silently. But something else happened too. Her husband, for the first time in years, actually looked at her. Really looked. Because a woman who has drawn a line is impossible to overlook. And slowly, he began to understand what he had allowed to happen under his own roof, not out of malice, but out of comfort, out of convenience, out of never having been asked to examine it. Some marriages do not survive this moment, and if that is your story, hear me clearly. That is not failure. That is not you destroying something good. If a relationship cannot survive your becoming whole, it was never sized for the fullness of who you are. But many marriages do survive it, and more than survive, they become something realer than what came before. Because a marriage built on one person's silence is fragile no matter how peaceful it looks from the outside. A marriage where both people are seen, where both people are respected, where a wife is not a background character in her own home, that is a marriage that can actually hold weight. Her husband began to correct his mother himself. Not because his wife demanded it every time, but because he had finally understood it was his responsibility to protect the woman he married, not merely to keep his own mother comfortable. Her mother-in-law, over time, learned there was now a line, and crossing it had consequences. Not cruelty. Not revenge. Just consequences. The natural result of a boundary that finally existed. And she, the woman who used to disappear at her own dinner table, became someone the whole household had to reckon with. Not because she got louder, but because she got clearer. Now let me speak directly to you, wherever you are listening to this, in your kitchen, in your car, lying in bed at the end of a long day. If you are the quiet one in your house right now, the one keeping the peace at your own expense, the one everyone has learned they can speak past, correct, dismiss, or overlook, I need you to hear this. Your silence was never a weakness. It was a woman still deciding when. But when is not a place you get to live in forever. When has to become now, at some point, or it becomes never, and never is a life sentence you did not agree to. You do not need permission to matter in your own home. You do not need anyone's approval to take up space at your own table. Respect is not something you wait patiently to be given. It is something you decide, one day, is no longer optional. Nobody is coming to grant you your worth. You already have it. You simply have to stop negotiating it away for the sake of other people's comfort. I want you to think about what it is actually costing you to stay quiet. Not what it costs the household if you speak. What it costs you if you don't. Every year you stay silent is a year you do not get back. Every comment you swallow becomes a small stone you carry, and stones add up, Until one day you are carrying a weight you cannot explain, made entirely of things you never said. You were not created to shrink so that other people could feel large beside you. You were not placed in that home to be a background character in your own story. You are not disrespectful for having a boundary. You are not bitter for expecting to be spoken to with basic human dignity. You are not ungrateful for wanting your husband to choose you, visibly, consistently, especially when someone else is trying to diminish you. So stand. Not in anger, though your anger, if you have it, is valid and it is information, not a flaw. Not for revenge, because revenge was never the goal, wholeness was. Stand because the version of you that keeps shrinking to keep others comfortable was never the whole truth of who you are. There is a fuller version of you waiting on the other side of that first boundary, the one you have been too afraid to speak. And here is something I want you to carry with you long after this video ends. Standing is not a single moment. It is not one dramatic sentence that fixes everything forever. Standing is a practice. It is choosing, again and again, in small moments and large ones, to no longer make yourself smaller for the comfort of people who benefited from your silence. It will feel unfamiliar at first. It will feel almost wrong, because you have spent so long associating your worth with how little space you take up. That discomfort is not a sign you are doing something wrong. It is a sign you are doing something new. Growth rarely feels like relief in the beginning. It feels like risk. But it is the only path that leads back to yourself. She stood. And the house that once walked on her never walked on her again. Not because she became cruel. Not because she stopped loving the people in it. But because she finally understood that love without respect is not love at all. It is simply tolerance dressed up in a nicer name. If you take one thing from this message, let it be this. Your quiet was never your weakness. It was the space where your strength was quietly forming, waiting for the moment you would finally use it. That moment does not have to be dramatic. It can be one sentence spoken plainly, the way she said it. That will not happen again. Say it in your own words, in your own time, but say it. Because the woman on the other side of that sentence, the one who finally stood, she is not someone new. She was always there. She was just waiting for you to stop apologizing for taking up the space you were always allowed to take. Now I want to talk to you about the part that comes after the standing, because standing once is not the end of the story, it is only the beginning of a much longer journey, the journey of remembering who you were before you learned to make yourself small. After years of quiet, many women find that the hardest part is not speaking the boundary. The hardest part is what comes after, in the silence that follows, when you are alone with yourself and you realize you are not entirely sure who you are anymore, outside of the roles you have played for everyone else. Wife, daughter-in-law, mother, peacekeeper. You know exactly who you are to everyone in that house. But who are you to yourself? This is not a small question, and I do not want you to rush past it. Because the woman who disappears into keeping everyone else comfortable often loses track of her own preferences, her own opinions, her own joy. She forgets what she likes to do when no one is watching. She forgets the sound of her own laughter when it is not performed for someone else's comfort. Rebuilding that is not instant. It is a slow, patient process, and it deserves the same grace you gave everyone else for all those years. Start small. Ask yourself what you actually think, not what keeps the peace, but what you actually believe, about your marriage, about your family, about your own life. Ask yourself what you want your days to feel like, not what you are enduring, but what you are choosing. These questions may feel foreign at first, because you have spent so long asking what everyone else needs. That is exactly why they matter now. Rebuilding yourself after years of silence also means learning to tolerate the discomfort of other people's disappointment. This is critical, so listen closely. When you stop absorbing everything quietly, some people around you will be unhappy, at least at first. Your mother-in-law may be unhappy that her comments no longer go unanswered. Your husband may be unhappy that dinner is not always calm and predictable anymore. Their discomfort is not proof that you are doing something wrong. Their discomfort is simply proof that the old arrangement, the one where you paid the price for everyone else's comfort, is finally over. You are allowed to disappoint people who only valued you for your silence. Read that again if you need to. You are allowed to disappoint people who only valued you for your silence. Because their disappointment is not a debt you owe. It was never your job to manage every emotion in that house at the cost of your own well-being. I also want to speak to something quieter, something underneath all of this, which is grief. Because when a woman finally stands after years of shrinking, she often grieves the years she spent that way. She grieves the version of herself that endured what she should never have had to endure. She grieves the moments she cannot get back, the holidays she smiled through pain, the years she spent believing her silence was love. That grief is real, and I will not tell you to rush past it either. Let yourself feel it. Let yourself be angry, if anger comes. Let yourself grieve for the woman who did not yet know she deserved better. That grief is not weakness. It is the natural response of a heart finally being honest with itself. And on the other side of that grief is something powerful, which is compassion, deep compassion, for the woman you used to be, and fierce protection for the woman you are becoming. Because here is the truth that ties all of this together. The woman who finally stands is not erasing her past. She is not pretending those years of silence did not happen. She is simply refusing to let them define the rest of her story. She takes what she learned, the patience, the strength she did not know she had, the depth of care she is capable of, and she carries it forward, but she stops paying for it with her own dignity. If you are in the middle of this journey right now, wherever you are in it, whether you have just spoken your first boundary or you are still gathering the courage to speak it at all, I want you to know that you are not behind. There is no schedule for this. There is no timeline you are supposed to be following. Some women stand after one conversation. Some women take years to gather themselves before they are ready. Both are valid. Both are brave. The only wrong timeline is the one where you never stand at all. And if today is not the day you speak your boundary out loud, that is all right. Let today be the day you simply decide quietly inside yourself that you are done disappearing. Let that decision live in you, even before you have the words for it, even before you have the courage to say it at the dinner table. Because decisions made quietly in the privacy of your own heart are often the ones that hold the most power. They are the seeds of everything that comes after. She stood. And the house that once walked on her never walked on her again. Not because she became cruel. Not because she stopped loving the people in it. But because she finally understood that love without respect is not love at all. It is simply tolerance dressed up in a nicer name. If you take one thing from this message, let it be this. Your quiet was never your weakness. It was the space where your strength was quietly forming, waiting for the moment you would finally use it. That moment does not have to be dramatic. It can be one sentence spoken plainly, the way she said it. That will not happen again. Say it in your own words, in your own time, but say it. Because the woman on the other side of that sentence, the one who finally stood, she is not someone new. She was always there. She was just waiting for you to stop apologizing for taking up the space you were always allowed to take. Stand. Your family, your home, and most importantly, you are worth it.